Right, guys. The next mechanic I'm going to do is, to be fair, it's not too difficult, to be honest. The only problem with it is there are some potential bugs with it, and it's the jump mechanic. The reason being is jump mechanic can be done in lots of different ways. So you can do checks to see if the ball's in certain places. It can be quite complex. I've gone for quite a simple way of doing it, which essentially only uses about 3 lines of code. Reason being is because, as I say, it can be a bit of a nightmare, and this is the easiest way of getting it implemented. If you run into issues, you can look into other ways of doing it, but this works for me, so I'm just going to jump in and just get on with it. Yeah, we want to start off with 3 variables. One is a private vector3. Oh, my typing is awful. And this is just going to be called jump. Then there's a public float. This is going to be called jump force. So obviously this is the force at which we jump. And do I want a public? No, I'm going to go private bool, because we don't want to change this anywhere else. And this is going to be called is grounded. So this is obviously just the check to see if it is actually grounded. So what I'll do, I'll put the if statement for the jump in first, and then I'll talk you through the is grounded section. So I'm just going to do this in a very simple way. You can change this if you, say for instance, are having on-screen buttons and stuff. But just for this, I'm just going to put if input dot get key down, and in brackets I'm going to look for the key code, and that is going to be the space key code. So if I then put it in here, it wouldn't matter where it was, it would just keep jumping. So I also need to add an additional check for is grounded. So we're just making sure is grounded is true. So just in here, very simple, I'm going to reference the rigid body, which I believe is RB, dot add force, and the force at which we're going to add is the jump times the jump force. And then we can reference a force mode, and the force mode we are going to implement is the impulse. There we go. So that's quite self-explanatory, but also once we've jumped, we also want to make sure that is grounded is set to false. We're going to put a check in anyway, but it just makes it a little bit easier. So yeah, that's one section, and the other bit we need to do is I'm going to put it just above this, just because it's quite small. So we've done kind of on collisions and all that kind of stuff. This is going to be an on collision stay. So this one here. So by default it gives me collision and collision. I'm not going to actually reference any of that because I don't need to. And I'm just going to say is if it's, staying on collision, so obviously being on the floor, is grounded is true. And it is literally that simple. So if I save this, so bear in mind I've got this section here and this section just to check it. So if let me just double check that give me a minute. There we go, it's coming in now. The jump force, I'm going to put like 10 or something just so it's really obvious when we get in there. So we can walk around and, oh, there we go. I forgot to change that setting from before. So there's a completion time. So let's just put like 300 seconds on that. Make sure that's all right. There we go, input space, and I'm just grounded. Just double checking that I didn't miss anything here before we jump in. Oh yes, I did. I did miss something, that makes sense. Yeah. So before I jump in, like the pun, we also need to put something in the start function. We set the jump. I just suddenly realised there was something that wasn't going to work there. So new vector 3, for the jump. We've got the jump in there, but we've not defined it. So I'm going to start with this. So obviously I just want it to jump in the air. I don't want it to jump to the left or jump to the right. That would be ridiculous. This isn't the Cha-Cha slide. So yeah, I've set the jump, which references here, which then if I didn't set that, then this wouldn't have anything to times by. So yeah, I did forget that, but got there just in the nick of time. I've changed that to that so I can actually play this game for a little bit without it kicking me out and telling me I'm rubbish. So yeah, we can see there. Obviously my jump is very excessive at the minute. But that's because I've put the jump force to 10. You will play with your jump force. You will set it to whatever you want it to be. So you could just set it to 2 if you wanted, and then have a very kind of normal jump where it doesn't jump particularly high. Or you could go really mad if you wanted and say, you know what, I'm going to have this point where I'm going to get a speed boost off of this, because why not? A speed boost, and then I'm going to jump to 20, because that's just how crazy my game is. But yeah, the preference is yours. The jump force, that's your decision. But that's how we implement it. The only bug we can really run into is with this, you may be able to jump up walls if you keep up a constant collision with them. So just be aware of that. Play around with that. Run up to a wall if you've got walls in your scene and see if you can jump up the side of it. If you can, that's the only real bug I can think of that can come from this. But yeah, simple jump there, guys. Yeah, cool. Catch you in the next video.